Content Factory, the ability to just hand you a list of questions people ask in your market. You answer them for about 60 minutes a month, and we create hundreds and hundreds of videos. The piece I was going to say is you have to know who makes the right partners for that, and it's largely, the secret is just about helping winners win more. They should already be winning for you, or they should already be winning before you, and you just ask for a share of the upside. Like, hey, that special that was on, do you guys still have that? Yes, we do. Okay. And that's it. That's how customers talk. They don't introduce themselves. They don't tell you where they're calling from. They don't tell you why. Tell me you guys are not impressed with the dad guns. Put the kids to bed early. That's all I'm going to say. Put the kids to bed early because the dad guns are out. Quick little announcement before we get rocking and rolling. And that is that we are building majorly in the Wolfpack. It's still a work in progress, but I'm building what I think is the coolest thing ever. Obviously, I'm a little biased on the subject. So I don't know if that counts, but we are building two things, what I call the Content Factory, the ability to just hand you a list of questions people ask in your market. You answer them for about 60 minutes a month, and we create hundreds and hundreds of videos. A lot of you guys see all my videos and think I'm like crazy active, but I actually only spend like 1 or 2 days a month actually filming content. The rest of it I'm just goofing off doing those things. So I want to bring that to you guys. And then secondly, and I'll tell you why I do it, because it works. It brings people to you pre-sold. So if you're interested in doing that. And then the second thing is we're also building what I call my shoe store outreach, which is finding the influencers in an industry and contacting them on your behalf and doing cool stuff and doing all that. Cole is here for the gun show. So enough about me rambling, bragging, but if you guys are interested, I got a link below. Anyways, let's talk the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. And the dad guns to finish it off. One of these days I'm going to have to play a little show for you guys with the guitar. But in the meantime, you guys got some awesome questions, so let's get into them. Ollie says, I have a potential client who converts their customers offline that I'd like to do a revenue share with rather than a monthly fixed fee. Any tips on how to set this up for success? Firstly, I'm assuming that what you mean by that is like the tracking question. So I get this question a lot, and people assume the answer to the tracking is something technical. So they'll say to me, should I use this tracking tool? Should I use this? Should I use this phone number? Whatever. And whatever works for you, man. But I'll tell you how I do the tracking, and it's simply with the offer. Like, let's say, for example, you were working with a pizza place, and you created an offer that you get 2 large pizzas with pepperoni and some breadsticks and a large, the big plastic bottles of Diet Coke or regular Coke. Nobody drinks that diet shit. Or nobody should. It's terrible. But anyways, 2 large pizzas, some breadsticks, and a Coke for $19.99. Well, if somebody calls you up and says, hey, I'm interested in the 2 pizzas and the breadsticks with a Coke offer, they couldn't have come from anywhere else other than you because you created that offer. So what I will typically do is take an existing offer that a client has with success and add a piece or two so that we can track it directly to us. And that's been the most valuable, doesn't matter whether it's online, offline. It's like if you create your own offer, 100% of the sales are attributable to you. So that's how I like to do it. I don't like to sell something they already have off the shelf. I like to modify it. Now, you mentioned what do we need to do to be successful? And we've had some success this year with revenue share deals. Having said that, there are people in our community that are very quiet and low key that are doing way bigger than me. Tony T, you guys, your friend Tony Teagard, guy's a legend with revenue share deals. Anyways. Let me tell you some of the success factors so you don't screw this up. The first thing is, if you can really wrap your head around this first thing, man, you'll save yourself like 95% of the headaches with revenue share deals. And that is, the goal with a revenue share deal is to help winners win more. It is not to try and be the savior in a business. I'll tell you, I wasted a lot of years thinking of myself as seeing a struggling business, and I'm going to turn it around with my marketing and having this savior complex. Revenue share deals work way bigger or way better when you got like a company that's already doing $30 million and you're going to help them sell $100,000 extra of their shit that they just got lying around. It typically works way, way, way better in that scenario than trying to convince strangers off the street to come in and buy some shit from a struggling business. Now, the second piece that if you can wrap your head around will make you more successful in these revenue share deals is it generally works way better to sell their stuff to their audience and customers. Now, I know a lot of times people like there's pay-per lead models and stuff, and I have friends, Dan Wardrobe, for example, that does really well with pay-per lead, but I'm a bigger believer if you're going to do revenue share deal, you're going to sell warm leads, ideally like really warm leads, extra stuff. So I'll give you an example of this done brilliantly. I have a friend in this group, actually, and they went and did an e-commerce deal, and they were helping a client sell cannabis vaporizer. So it's an e-commerce product for stoners. And one of the things they did is they created an offer, and this was the offer, is we'll give you a second one for like 10% off or something like that. And the company naturally resisted it and said, like, well, people already bought it from us. Won't they get annoyed if we're trying to sell them the same thing? But there's lots of reasons. Maybe they want it as a gift. Maybe they want one for their house or the car or for the vacation home, or maybe they're, like I said, maybe it's they're going to buy it for the wife, a friend, whatever, and they crushed it with that offer. But what's key is the on the revenue share deal, they provided the audience, they provided the product, and they simply this person brought in their offer making skills and simply sold more of something that's already working. That is revenue share deal run correctly. What you don't want to do is look at that broke, struggling car dealership and say, I'm going to sell some cars for you. You want to look at the place that sells 100 cars a day and say, I can help you sell one or two extra that you just, through some email marketing or whatever. So revenue share deals, that's the first key, is like winners win more. Secondly, sell warm shit to warm people. What's up, Hetty? And then the third piece that I think is equally important with this is you want to test as fast as humanly possible. And what I mean by that is sometimes, no matter, even if the stars align correctly, some revenue share deals aren't not going to work out, and that's okay. What you do not want to do is invest a year of your time and energy and resources. Instead, you just want to run a little test, see whether or not it's going to make you some money, see whether or not they're going to pay you on time, and if it works, do more, and if it doesn't, if you do it that way, you'll probably succeed on about 3 out of 5 revenue share deals. And what you want to do is create what is known in the investment world, and this is like a pretty game-changing thing, is something called asymmetric risk. And it doesn't sound very exciting, but it's fucking a game changer if you really understand it and apply it practically. And what it means is when we're wrong, we want to be wrong a little bit of time, a little bit of energy, a little bit of money, or ideally no money, or almost no time or no energy at all. And when you're right, you want to create asymmetric upside so that like your upside is almost unlimited. Meaning, like, if you crush it with a campaign, you might make 150 grand, but if you strike out, you wasted an hour or two. That's how you want to set it up, so that you can be wrong 2 out of 5 times and still crush it, kind of thing. So that's what you want to aim for with those kind of revenue share deals. And we're going to talk more about like kind of alternative business models and things like that, because I believe you guys can make way more money than most people are doing in retainer size deals, and actually have happier clients because of it. Like, people pay you significantly more money and have them be thrilled about it. Drew, what's up, my man? He says, if we're targeting clients big enough with enough products to sell for revenue share, they probably already have an email marketing guy. So how do we position ourselves to be an external consultant or whatever? We're not stepping on their team's toes. 2 answers to that, Drew. Answer number 1 is what you want to do is sell them on the idea of a campaign. You're not even really selling them the idea, I'm going to be your email person. Like, I'm going to sell this specific product for you. The fact that I'm using email is irrelevant, and I always just propose the idea, let's run a test campaign. Second piece to that is, if you can offer to do that using a media that they're not using, This is the idea, like I wrote about in the book, called an add-on versus replacement offer. If they have an email guy, by the way, just so you know, there are lots of companies with tons of products and tons of sales, sometimes like in the 30, 40 million dollars, that don't have an email guy. That it's like it's being managed by the owner, but then the owner starts getting busy and it's hit and miss, and they like being the face of the brand. So that's a conversation for another day. But if there is an email person, I simply propose something else. I say, this is what we're actually working on with Jay Abraham right now. Can I be your direct mail person? I want to sell your stuff through direct mail. Why direct mail? Because nobody's doing it. Or I could say, hey, we want to do it through SMS, right? Why SMS? Nobody's doing it. We want to do it through Facebook Messenger to your audience. Why? Nobody's doing it, right? So if there is an email person in place, just zig when they zag, right? That's really it. If you can understand that principle, you'll make your life so much easier. This is why for years I saw like people selling Facebook ads and having difficulty selling it because there's so many people offering it. And yet like 2-3 years ago, like messenger bots got really hot because Facebook ads are a replacement offer. They actually had to, like, they already had a Facebook ads person, so they got to fire somebody to hire you. Messenger bots are an add-on or bolt-on or like a complementary piece. Like, it just adds on to the infrastructure. So whenever possible, make your shit add on, make it complementary. Because I'll tell you, like, the difference between running an email campaign versus direct mail or SMS or messenger, like, is very little difference. So, but having said that, you would be surprised at how many big successful companies have email lists and have lots of products and do not have a quote unquote email person. Like a couple of the revenue share deals I do, the owner is the email person, and a lot of times they can't stay on top of it because they just get busy. So they'll run 2 campaigns a month, then take their foot off the gas for 6 weeks, and then they'll run 2 more campaigns. And so I just simply propose, hey, in that 6 weeks of downtime, let me run a campaign for you. Right? I'm still, even though I'm proposing email, something they already do, I'm figuring out how to make it complementary. How can I make it run while you're down? Right? So like, if you stick with that basic idea, you'll open doors, not just with revenue share deals, but all kinds of doors open up if you can figure out how to be an add-on, bolt-on / complementary piece. Josh says, Frankie Fihn or anyone else, what is the click to send snail mail platform you like best? Want to try the Dan Kennedy sales letter method? We use a service called click2mail, click2mail.com. I learned about them through Valerie, shout out in the real estate space. And what I like about click2mail is you can upload a list that you have created and you can pull those fields and customize your letters. So like the obvious way to customize it is you can use the first name. So like the letter to Frankie says, Dear Frankie, blah, blah. And I'll tell you why I like direct mail, especially in industries where there's a lot of gatekeepers. So like for a lot of years, I've done stuff with personal injury lawyers. When you try and contact a personal injury lawyer, like if you try and do outreach or like a lot of the typical methods or cold calling, you're guaranteed to almost get the gatekeeper, like 99 times out of 100. And so, but when you send a piece of direct mail addressed to the lawyer, it gets right in their hands, no gatekeeper. And the second thing I love about it is nobody else doing it. Now, having said that, how do we use direct mail? Our most common methodology, and I don't want you guys to get too hung up on the tactics, but we have a system we use called the hand raiser formula. And the hand raiser formula is just a summary of whatever you're going to offer, right? And by the way, your offer is not your deliverable. That's the biggest mistake. People think if I do SEO, my offer is SEO. No, your offer is not SEO. Your offer might be like, I'm going to get you 50 to 100 phone calls. Your offer is better thought of as an outcome, not the deliverable. It is not the thing that is on the journey of getting there. It is what happens when it's done and the problem solved and created by it. So what we typically do is we put the hand raiser formula in a letter, drive them to a video that explains more information, and then if they're ready to take the next step and actually have a conversation with somebody, that's all we do. We have some training on that on the YouTube channel. Anybody who's interested, I'll put a direct link for you. Drew says, shoe store is still the best kind of course for finding clients for revenue share deals. I'm going to give you a cheat code on this, Drew. You mentioned, okay, this is like, these are some of the things I learned from Jay Abraham about being strategic and not tactical. So a lot of times people ask me tactical kind of questions. And just so you know, I see 3 levels of it whenever you're trying to do something. Tactics are like, hey, try this script, it works. And then there's strategy of like, if you use this script and get them here and do like, and you have like a more concrete plan and you have contingencies for both yes and no, that's when you're getting strategic. And there's a level above it called principles, where you understand the deeper idea that's at work. Like, for example, here's a principle. If you're trying to get somebody's attention, you should do something to like interrupt it and grab their attention. Now, there's all kinds of strategies and tactics that can come out of that. I've seen for years, like people would wave their arms on YouTube videos, or you can say, like I've seen it on VSLs where they say, this is a fish, and in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you how this fish can help you lose all the weight you want, right? That's a pattern interrupt. But it doesn't mean that you should always use a fish or always wave your hands. It just means that like you should always like do something to grab their attention, always, right? So this is why I'm talking about the principles. Now, the reason I tell you this is because if you're looking for people who have email lists and products, the question I ask myself, if you want to find the jackpot of revenue share deals, is if they have courses, they typically need to host those kind of courses and tools and software somewhere. And if they have email lists, they have to typically host and do those software. So like, for example, it may not seem like a good idea to join an Infusionsoft community, but like all your potential revenue shares are sitting in there, or a Kartra, or a Salesforce, for example, right? Who's paying for Salesforce? So one of my biggest secrets for finding revenue share deals is I find them by the software and the tools they use, right? Because like this is a thing I've taught a few people. Like, say you're trying to get, I've worked with a couple of people who are trying to work with online coaches. Now, the problem with online coaches is even more so than other industries. Like, the vast majority of them, by and large, are broke and don't have any clients. And right, so it's very hard to multiply zeros. And so people say, like, how can I identify the coaches that are actually like winning at this game? Well, they have software, they have tools, they have calendar bookings, they have sales teams, right? So I identify them by those pieces. And I wanted to give you the principle rather than say join an Infusionsoft group, because if you can think about like a level deeper of like, if they're successful, what would they need to be able to manage that system? And you think about like all the software and tools and setup and things they would need, then you just identify them by those. It's amazing. Like, I can find the successful e-commerce store owners by like Klaviyo is like a common software used in that space. But if you try and go after just like anyone anywhere, another thing is you can always almost tell just from their website, just by listing the amount of shit they have for sale. Or this is a question, is people say, how can I find out how much their revenue is? Because it's not like you can call somebody up and ask like, hey, are you guys doing 30 million? Oh, you are? Okay. Well, in that case, do you want to do a revenue share deal? And so one of the secrets I look at, I just click on the About Us page and look at the size of their team. Last I check, staff does not work for free. And so this is a thing I've learned, Drew, for a long time, which is I trust behavior, not words. I trust behavior, not words. So how do I know they're doing 30 million? Because there's a team of 30 people, right? Like, I can tell how big a law firm is by clicking on the About Us page, seeing the team, and based on the size of the team, I can get a ballpark for how big you are as a law firm. This is no different in any other industry. So their tools, their team, their size. So just think about, when you're thinking about an ideal person other than you and your revenue share deal, what else would they need to support that in like email list and tools and courses and things like that, or whatever kind of revenue share deal you want to do. Like, figure out what other pieces they would have and then look at those, and you'll find not just one or two. Like, if you go into an Infusionsoft group, almost everybody in there is qualified to be a revenue share partner. So like, you can join a Infusionsoft community of 18,000 people, and there's 18,000 potentially good revenue share partners. But a big secret is just knowing where to fish on that. And so I hope that made that easier. Josh says, how do you price your services? Oh man, this is like such a deep thing, okay? So, I mean, there's combinations you can do, but I'll tell you, thing number one is the obvious model, which is retainer, and that's the one everybody likes. And I'll tell you, the longer I do this, the less appealing retainer gets. Why? Because it's hard work to sell, and when it works, you almost get paid none of the upside. So like, for example, like my first ever SEO success was a doctor in Dallas. His name was Sam. And I remember I charged him $400 a month, and at some point he told me that I had like made him like $3 or $4 million from my SEO, and I thought if I had just said, "Hey, I'll do your SEO for free," and what I want in the process is when you get patients, can you pay me like 25% of like the back end profits you make from that? Would you be okay with that? You keep 75%. I just want to be your marketing partner. I probably would have made $250,000 or more off of that client instead of $4 or $5 grand a year. And a lot of agency owners are like, they want to bring poor and middle class values and don't take any of the risk. And the key to risk is not never having it. It's knowing how to manage it. And it's ultimately knowing who makes risk and who doesn't. And so knowing who makes risk is really clarity about which clients make good partners and don't. And again, I've mentioned it before. It's largely about helping winners win more. So they should already be advertising. They should already be selling their stuff. They should have teams. They should have systems. They should have sales. They should have processes. All those things need to exist before you show up. I shouldn't say they need to exist. It's not like nobody's ever succeeded with clients who don't have those in place. But man, you'll make your life so much fucking easier if they have those things. And it'll just work better. It'll just fucking work better. So I hope that's helpful to you. Now, having said that, the other way of pricing your stuff, obviously we've mentioned revenue share deal, but you can always create for yourself upside in ways that like it allows you to be wrong way more often, make way more money. So this is a partnership deal. I've kind of been in the back end discussion. So this is something like I want you to wrap your head around. Okay, so like let's say you're trying to get a plumber and you're trying to do pay-per-click ads and SEO for them. Well, if you're doing that as a retainer deal, maybe you're going to get $2,500 a month. I mean, depending on the client, you may get more than that. But like, let's just ballpark it $2,500 a month, okay? So you get $2,500 a month, which means if you keep them for a year, you will have created $30,000 in revenue. Obviously, not all profit because there's cost of delivering and fulfilling on. And I want you to think about this. This is a deal I proposed with a partner. I found out he was buying businesses, and he said, I'm really interested in service businesses. And then when we talked, we said the service businesses that he's most interested have everything but marketing. They have good teams, they have good systems, they have process, they have a name, they have reputation, they have reviews, but they have no marketing. They don't run any ads, they don't do any pay-per-click. And so when he puts all that stuff on there, he blows the business up. Now, what's interesting is usually service businesses will sell for a 2 to 3 multiple, meaning, like, let's just say, for the sake of easy numbers, it's $1 million plumbing business, then that plumbing business may sell for 2 to 3 million. And now here's where the math gets interesting. So we actually made an offer for a plumbing company in Montana that is in the works right now. I don't know whether or not they're going to accept it. But to buy $1 million business, my partner had to come up with 50 grand out of pocket. The rest comes from owner financing and small business loans. So even though he's buying $1 million asset, he's actually risked $50,000 in real money. And again, that's a real estate term they use a lot called OPM, other people's money. And we agreed to, if you buy this business, I would like a finder's fee. So I'm going to get paid, if the deal goes through, a fee on that. And then we agreed, like, hey, why don't you just help me blow this business up and we can create some of the share for myself. So we agreed that if I can grow the revenue, I get a share of the revenue that's increased, which is like a monthly retainer because it's a business that's already cash flowing, it's already making money, all those things. And the plan is, and he's done this a few times, the plan is to sell it in 2 to 3 years. And usually by then he likes to have doubled or tripled the business by just adding the marketing piece. And let's say he doubles it to 2 million. Well, it sells for a 2 to 3x multiple, which means you can get 4 to 6 million. So which means $50,000 of risk of other people's money can produce a $5 million potentially increase on that. And when you think about that, you're like, man, why would I want to work for $2,500 a month when I can create deals for myself that have $5 million of upside? And here's the kicker. I'm doing the same fucking thing. Like when we take over that business, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to fucking run some SEO and some pay-per-click, right? Like it's the same shit you would do anyway. So this is why I say the longer I do this, the more I realize a big secret is creating upside for yourself. Now, people kind of do this like half-assed in e-commerce. So you'll see this in e-commerce where they'll say like, as we scale, I want a percentage of the ad spend. But if you can create results and focus on creating upside on those results, you can consult for equity, you can buy companies, you can do revenue share deals. There's like lots of permutations of that. And the longer I do this, the more appealing that is, and the less appealing is like, give me a monthly salary, boss, which I think retainer model is in a nutshell. Now, I'm not saying that is the right model for everybody, and I'm not talking shit about retainers, because obviously I took retainers for over 10 years, and we still have retainer clients, so I'm not throwing stones at that. I'm just saying, when you reach a space where your basic bills are covered by your retainer stuff, and you have a little bit of breathing room, and you don't have to like wonder if you're going to be able to pay, your bills next month, that's when I think it's time to start looking at like very high upside deals. Like you can create $5 million in 50-50 share for a plumbing company with no upside. And here's the kicker. You'll still get $2,500 a month because you get an increase in the share of the revenue of all of that. So it's like you're not even like, there's no downside. You can get paid when you buy it. You can get paid month after month as the business increases. You can get paid when the business sells. And all it is your ability to negotiate. And one of the key switches of it is twofold. One is asking for a share of the results that you're going to generate, which you can do. I have crypto projects right now, by the way, where I'm consulting. I'm like, okay, well, if we're successful, like, give me a fuckload of tokens so that I have some equity in this thing. And then the second piece is, besides like having the balls to ask, I forgot what the second piece is. My mind went to crypto for a second, so I guess we'll have to come back to that in a second. But you can create for yourself these like really, really high upside deals, and once your basic bills are covered, I think it's just a smarter way to do it, right? Because you can create for yourself these massive wins, and like, believe it or not, they're easier to sell because like it's a win-win. I only get paid if you win. In fact, somebody else I know was saying that they do social media for like startups, tech startups, and they take like a 10% share in the company, and then they say like, we need $1,000 a month to be able to like pay our team to run the, and so they get $1,000 a month retainer. But actually, they were telling me like a couple of the companies have gone to like 80 million, and so they get an $8 million buyout at some point for running the same pay-per-click SEO, social media stuff they're going to do anyway. So you can, and the other piece I was going to say is you have to know who makes the right partners for that. And it's largely, the secret is just about helping winners win more. They should already be winning for you, or they should already be winning before you, and you just ask for a share of the upside. So I hope that's helpful. Hetty says, biggest problem right now is to show the right offer to leads, and making a good offer take a long time and energy, but most people like me failing to make it. Is there any AI tool that can help the right offer in the market? Whenever I see people struggling with making their offer work, it's usually a function of one of two things. One is they don't understand the people they're talking to enough, and almost always there is a strong urge to give up and switch niches when it gets hard, and it's like literally the fucking worst thing you can do, because every niche has their own language, their own methodology, their own verbiage. So like, for example, I saw somebody sent me an offer the other day, and it was like, hey, if you're a dentist, I can get you more customers. Well, a dentist doesn't even call his people customers. He calls them patients. So he already knows you're not one of them, and he's going to ignore it. So there's a learning curve in every market, and every single time somebody switches niche, they start that over. So like, even if it takes 6 months, like, go deep on people. And usually what happens is, and I'll tell you, like, this is my personal experience when you're stuck on it, is you make the failures mean something about you, and so you're just not, like, the second problem I see is they just don't put it out there enough to offer, because they're timid and they're afraid and they feel rejected. So I know for me, like, a lot of times, like, when I was first trying to break through with lawyers, like, I was in a bad place, like, where I had let my last agency, I decided to close it, and I took 6 months off. Or my first agency, I took 6 months off, and I eventually just ran out of money and like needed to do something. And I remember I would put an offer out there in like a lawyer LinkedIn group, and I would get crickets, meaning like nobody gave a fuck, zero interest in my offer. And it would take me a week to try again, because I would be so deflated and feel like I was getting nowhere. Well, that mental game stops you from being ballsy and just putting it out there and trying and making adjustments. But inevitably, like, the only thing that'll speed that up is having conversations with real people in your market. And the fastest thing that'll get you conversations is putting offers out there. Putting stuff out there will get people to say, I'm kind of interested, and then they'll talk to you. And the conversations, even when they don't seem like they're going anywhere, like, that's what you do. And what you'll inevitably find is that. But there's no fucking AI tool that can make you understand people. AI can help with the research of understanding them. So, like, if you want to speed that research process, you can say, like, what are the biggest problems of dentists, and, like, go deeper, and how do they phrase it and things like that. But ultimately, when you're stuck on your offer, you need to listen to the market. You need to, like, have conversations with people and ask them, and you need to put shit out there. And, like, it's like, it's boring, repetitive shit done over and over. Like, most people who are broke don't make enough offers. It's really that simple. Like, the more offers you make, the more money you make. It's really that fucking simple. And I don't think there's enough people who, like, do that consistently. Matt Coffey, the legend. We got some cool stuff coming up with Matt, by the way. Shout out for you guys who are watching this right now. Matt is working on some really cool shit behind the scenes, and I'm excited to share with that. You guys over the next couple of weeks. I don't know where it's at in the content schedule, but I'll check that out. But let's just say he's got some shit you've never seen before or heard in any other group that can bolt on and add on to your agency in ways that'll make you get clients, be able to fulfill on it, keep them paying you a long time. So anyways, Matt says, there's a lot more sophistication on being able to have the loan capabilities and legal specific dialogue. The capability to do this are an important one, but you could also turn around agencies that are poor performing too. Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking here. This is by the way, this whole term M&A. I heard somebody say that to me the other day. Mergers and acquisitions. This is how, like, the big money's made. The big money, like, if you look at a lot of, like, wealthy people that, like, and I'm talking in the billions or the 500 million and up kind of class, you'll notice mergers and acquisitions, a lot of real estate, a lot of companies. But for the most part, they're using their marketing skills to buy stuff, not to sell stuff. They're using their marketing skills to find opportunities to buy things, not to sell. And so, you guys, a lot of you guys don't realize you can be broke starting out with 0 clients and actually, start the mergers and acquisition games. One of the simplest ways to do it is, I see this all the time, is people in your industry will get burnt out. So, like, say you're trying to break into solar, there's somebody who's burnt out with solar already. And they're like, man, I want to sell my agency. And they don't have a sellable agency. And what you can propose to them is, like, can I just take over your client roster and pay you every month for the clients you've given me? And a lot of times they'll just be like, yeah, I'm so sick of doing this. You take over. And if they hand you a $3,000 a month client and you got to pay them $1,000 a month, you're still $2,000 ahead. And it costs you nothing to do it. You would be amazed at how often opportunities like that come along. I just hang out in agency groups. I see like 10 of those a week. 10 opportunities to buy a business where somebody doesn't want it anymore and is burnt out with it. And if you're trying to break into that, like, there's so many things you can do with that. So I don't know. That's a whole topic for another day, but I just wanted you guys to know those opportunities are there. Channing says, what's the average churn rate for people with niche agencies? Would love to hear from newer agencies as well as the seasoned ones with their processes dialed in. I'll give you some numbers just so you know, and I'm not saying like this is like the official statistics. These are just what I've seen after years and years of doing this. The average agency keeps their clients 2 to 3 months. So they after 60 to 90 days, they're the fuck out. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is, reason number one is they make absurdly assholey giant marketing promises that can't be fulfilled on. Saw some guy the other day said, we can help you add an extra $300,000 to $500,000 per month with our outreach services. Well, if he only makes me 50 grand, does that mean he's a failure? Right. So like he started with a promise so high that the chances of fulfilling on it are next to zero. So that's reason number one. I see a lot of these. I'm not going to name the person's name, but there's a certain guru who started these like, I guarantee you 150 fucking booked appointments, or I'll pay you $1,000 for wasting your time kind of offers. Those have like next to zero fulfillment on them, and those clients leave in 2 to 3 months, just so you know, because you started with this giant assholey promise, and so yeah, you landed the client, but you're not keeping them. So what's the fucking point? And they're pissed off at you, and they're asking for a refund later. So there's reason number one. It's like giant fucking assholey marketers. Reason number two is they haven't learned their craft well enough to get people results. And believe it or not, this actually comes up less than people might think. Everybody thinks that clients are leaving because the results aren't there and things like that. I'm not saying it never happens, but most agencies, believe it or not, are good people that want to do well. Meaning somebody hires you to run create a website or run some Facebook ads, like, or build a funnel. Like, you actually build the funnel and you do your best as well as you can. Although, having said that, I definitely see, like, sometimes beginners say, I just got a client for Facebook ads. Now what do I do, right? So they had no plan for fulfillment. Reason number 3, this is actually the biggest reason clients leave, is because the communication sucks. And I tell this story that illustrates this point. I had a neighbor in Mexico who got his house built, and I asked him, like, man, like, it's a cool house. How was it? And he said, it's the worst fucking experience of my life. And I was like, worst experience of your life? And he said, yeah. And I said, why? And he said, well, I sent all my life savings to a stranger in Mexico, and then I couldn't reach anybody. So for like 6 months, I thought I got ripped off and it was a scam and all that. And I said, what happened? He said, well, after 6 months, I got a piece of paper in the mail, and it just said, it was all technical in Spanish, and nobody knew how to translate. And I said, then what happened? He said, I went down a year later and saw my house for the first time. And I said, how was that? And he said, oh, everything was built perfectly. But what ended up happening is because there was zero communication for a year, even though the deliverable was perfect, he filled that gap with anxiety and worry and stress, and I got ripped off and all those kind of things. And it's the same in our markets. So, like, communication is actually probably the number one reason people leave. You almost have to over communicate, especially in the beginning. But if you do that, you want to keep clients at least a minimum of 2 years. A minimum of 2 years should be the standard. There are going to be reasons that clients leave that are bigger than you. Like, for example, I've had a client leave, like, in the last 6 months because his biggest star lawyer quit. And so he has no fulfillment capacity. And so he's like, dude, we got to pause everything and everywhere because I have no capacity to fulfill, but I want to rehire you guys, in 6 months or a year when I have somebody trained up. So, like, there's reasons, but on average, you should be keeping people 2 years. Retention is the most important number in your agency, not something else. Josh says, what does your agency's onboarding process look like? I'll tell you, I believe onboarding is 2 separate things, and I'll tell you how we do it. But the first is what I call welcome aboard, which is essentially, it is designed to address the fact that people go through, whenever they make a big purchase, they go through something called buyer's remorse. And buyer's remorse, if you could put like a voice to the thoughts of buyer's remorse, it is, did I just do something stupid, and is everybody going to laugh at me for doing something? Like, am I going to have to look foolish in the eyes of others because I just got ripped off by another smooth-talking salesperson kind of thing? So that's what buyer's remorse is. And so before you even get building campaigns, like, I like to, as part of our onboarding process, welcome them and let them know they're in good hands. So how do we do that? We do a handwritten thank you note. We send them some cookies and brownies by mail that show up unexpectedly. And we just get, like, a cool email, like, I'm super stoked to have you kind of things. But, like, we have a couple of those touches. Those happen before we do onboarding. Now, the second piece is, like, you probably need some things to get started. Passwords, logins, send me some images. What are your brand colors? Shit like that, depending on what you're building and what you're doing. I like to think about that as, how can you make that as easy as humanly possible for them to get you the info and to make it as tight and seamless as a process as possible. It's a little bit different for everybody depending on what you're doing. We found that there's a tool called Leadsy that helps us get access to all their passwords and stuff with a couple of clicks. It's been a game changer in the sense that, like, it goes from this hours of emails back and forth to just click a couple of buttons, yes, approve, okay, you're in, and we can get started and rock and rolling. Jeff Miller calls this the time to live, and the idea is, from the moment they pay you, if it takes weeks and weeks and weeks for some shit to happen, this is what happens to their enthusiasm. Like, in cartoons, they would go, wah, wah, right? But if they hire you and they click a couple of buttons and your shit's already rocking and rolling and they start seeing stuff happening right away, they're excited. They feel good about you. And if you combine like good welcoming with fast time to live, where you give them cool shit and, like, your shit works, like, relatively quickly, that's when they start referring you and say, these guys are amazing. You gotta work with them because they're just, the bee's knees, the cat's meow, the octopus's vagina. Okay, I just made that last one up. Do octopuses have vaginas? I don't know. Somebody here is gonna ruin our lives with the octopus vaginas. We're gonna get a picture of somebody spamming the internet with octopus vaginas. Funny little story about that. I wrote about this in the book, but I actually had to fire an employee for looking at cartoon porn, and there was an octopus. I used to use this software called Time Doctor, and it would track. Like, you click a button that says, okay, I'm starting work now, and it would track. And because people in the Philippines usually have shitty internet, it'll just take a screenshot like every 10, 15 minutes and upload it to a system so you can kind of see like what they've been doing in that day. And I had an employee named Raphael, and Raphael hadn't like done anything. Like, he sent his end of shift report and there was like nothing on it. So I was like, what did you do all day? And then I clicked it and I was shocked because there's a cartoon chick getting fucked by an octopus, a Japanese anime. And it was an interesting thing because when I hired Raphael, he told me the reason I need this job is because my mom is sick with cancer and I got to afford her medication. And so I'll do whatever the hell you want to be the best employee you got. And so I didn't fire him immediately. I was like, listen, Raphael, anybody else I would fire, but I feel guilty about like the cancer mom thing. So please, for the love of all things fucking human, do not watch cartoon porn on work time again. Whatever you do after you click log out of work time, like, go watch all the cartoon porn till your heart's content. Please, 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 not on work time. And then the next day, he sent me an end of shift. There was nothing on it, and I logged into the thing, and there was cartoon porn again. And some video games. He didn't spend the whole day jerking off. He spent some time playing video games, too. But I was like, he knew he was being watched. The second time especially, I was, like, pretty damn shocked. So I ended up firing Raphael, as you may not be surprised to learn. But I don't know what the point of that is, other than pure shenanigans. Irina says, does anyone have a sheet with video recording instructions they send to clients who record their own videos? If yes, would you be willing to share it? This is a summary of ours because I don't have it to just send to you right now. But this is from our man Ryan Davies, and you guys want to look out for him because he is one of the smartest dudes. We've had him showing off some of his outreach methods in the Wolfpack. The guy's just a genius on many, many levels. So, but one of the things Ryan was showing is they have a testimonial script because a lot of times, like, whenever you ask clients for testimonials, they leave out the important shit and they say, yes, Frankie Fihn, I would endorse your services. I would recommend you. And what you're looking for is the meaningful specifics. So he has a framework to do that. And he says, my experience is, and then the person has to fill in that my experience was blah, blah, blah. And then you say the problem I was facing, and then they say the problem I was facing is blah, blah, blah. Now that we've solved that problem, blah, blah, blah. And they paint a picture of after. What was working with them like? Working with them was like blah, blah, blah. And then they say, if somebody's sitting on the fence, what would you do? And that's the format for it. My experience was, the problem I started with, what life looks like after, what was the process like, and if anybody's sitting on the fence, what would you do for them? And you end up with these great glowing testimonials that you can cut just from those 5 questions. So I hope you use that because it's really powerful. By the way, I hear my baby boy crying downstairs. That's the serenade of having 3 young kids. There's always at least one of them crying. I'm going to go hang with them in a minute, by the way. USAD says, what is the best opening line you've used to make a positive impression on a cold call? All right, I think this is a misnomer kind of question because I don't think the goal of, if you're doing cold calling, I don't think the goal is to make like such a positive first impression that they love you. I think the goal is to explore, is there actually like an opportunity to work together? All the best cold calling and cold outreach stuff I learned from a guy named Ari Gelper many, many years ago. And Ari Gelper says what's really interesting. He says that whenever you call or email somebody you don't know, most business people unconsciously use the same script. And the script sounds like this. They say, hello, my name is Frankie. I'm calling from company XYZ. And the reason I'm calling today is because ... And this started because back in the day, like there was a time, I don't know, those of you guys who are younger won't remember this, but there was a time where like there was no way to tell who was on the other side of the phone. So when you picked it up, it was always a gamble. You didn't know whether it was going to be a cold caller trying to sell you something. You didn't know whether it was your mom. You didn't know whether your best friend. And so you just took a chance and picked up the phone, right? That was how it was done in the old days. And so this cold calling script came out of that to disarm people who like couldn't see who it was or who they were talking to. But it is carried over like 20, 30 years. And what ends up happening is when you use that script, people automatically know you got some shit for sale. And so they've been trained through years and years and years of this to put their defenses up. The other variation of it is people might add in cold outreach, they say, I hope you're doing well. And then they use that same script. They say, my name's Frankie Fihn. I'm from company XYZ, and the reason I'm messaging you today is blah, blah. And so I see all these outreach scripts that are essentially this cold calling script from 30 years ago. Hope you're doing well. My name's Frankie Fihn. I'm calling from XY. And what ends up happening is before you finish that sentence, they become defensive. And so what Ari Gelper suggested is that customers do not do this. Customers just call up because they're there to give you money, not to ask for it. They don't say, hey, my name's Frankie Fihn. I'm calling from company XYZ. And the reason I'm calling today is, what are your opening hours? Or do you have it in black? Or is the special still on today? They just call up and they just say, hey, what time you guys open till? All right, 5 o'clock? Okay, see you then. Or they say, what are your hours? Or they say like, hey, that special that was on, do you guys still have that? Yes, we do. Okay. And that's it. That's how customers talk. They don't introduce themselves. They don't tell you where they're calling from. They don't tell you why. So what Ari Gelper suggested is mirroring the language of the customer, but using it in an intelligent way where you talk about specific problems and symptoms that they have. So it would sound like this. Hey, something's broken on your website. Who's the person to talk to about the broken website? Right? That's very different than, hey, my name's Frankie Fihn. I'm calling today from ABC Website Design. And the reason I'm calling today is to see if you're interested in a new website. Right? Instead, it's just like, hey, there's an issue with your website. Who should I talk to about it? And what you'll find is actually if you use the language of the customer, you mirror it, the gatekeepers will become much more cooperative. They'll say, oh, you got to talk to Doug. He's the head of marketing. Or you got to talk to the owner, Jim. Jim's the guy you want to talk to. You got to talk to Jenny because she's the one who looks after this kind of stuff. So making the quote-unquote best impression is that. Now, having said that, if you really want to make a best impression, this is when you get away from thinking about your audience as like a mass market and identify key influencers. And this is kind of actually what we're building in the Wolfpack right now. Is you find the people who have all the business flow in your industry and you do cool shit for them. And so rather than messaging them, would you be interested in it? You've already done the cool thing. So it's the difference between like, would you be interested in a new website versus like, hey, the guy who runs the dental conference, that's a guy I want to know. So I just built him a new fucking website. And so now I'm calling him not to ask him. I'm like, dude, I built you a cool fucking website to sell whatever, you know, your live event or whatever. That's how you do that. But for the most part, if you guys just stick to mirroring the language of the customer and talk about specific problems and stuff, hey, who's the person in charge of blah, blah, blah. I noticed there's an issue with your website loading time. Is it okay if I tell you, like, how you might fix that? Like, if you don't, none of this, I hope you're doing well. My name's Frankie. I'm calling from, because that's all about you. And this all started because, again, like people couldn't see who was on the other side of the phone. And so it actually, there was a time when that message disarmed people. But in 30 years of being pitched so much, it does the opposite. And so what you want to do is just like talk about issues, man. You'll sell a lot more shit. And I would recommend, by the way, long term, talk about those issues and content and bring people to you. The best use of outreach and cold calling, in my opinion, is to figure out what real problems and challenges your market has in their own words so that you can go put that back into your marketing, because marketing is energy efficient if you do it. It's one to many. I can make a YouTube video about a specific issue my audience has and then put the power of paid ads behind it and put that message in front of thousands and thousands of people, as where if I'm trying to cold call, like it's every time I got to spend an hour doing it, to get more business. So it's like, it's not energy efficient. It's one-to-one and cannot be leveraged. And what we want to do is use our non-leveraged things like outreach and email and cold calling, if you're doing that, to create leverage things based on the things you hear at it, right? So like if you get feedback from a real estate agent and they say, I'm really interested in investor listings, then like, go make a video talking about investor listings and promote the video, right? That's how you bring people to you that are pre-sold on what you want them to be pre-sold on. So hope that's helpful to you guys. That looks like all the questions we have today. Just a little shout out. We are building some cool things like these inside the Wolfpack. So those of you guys who are interested, I pinned a comment below. And I'm going to go eat something and hang with the old kiddos now. So appreciate you guys. Much love. You can see Daddy finally got a haircut. I didn't have to wear my hat today because I felt all shaggy. I felt Ronald McDonald-y. But now we're clean cut and rocking again. So much love for you guys. May the force be with you. Love you guys. Appreciate you. And have an awesome week. Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll also like my book on Amazon called Beyond the Agency Box, which you can also find by my name, Frankie Fihn. And it's got a lot of awesome reviews.
And it really just goes deeper on a lot of things we're talking about, everything you need to grow and start a lifestyle agency, from the stages you'll go through to getting clients, to how to create winning offers, to high value deliverables, to wowing clients, to building teams, to building systems, and building a boring factory that's like a 7-figure money machine for you. So if you're interested, I put links for you in the video description, as well as it'll be in the pinned top comment below, and make sure to check those out.